morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Glenn. Wait till Glenn sits down. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to call the meeting to order of the Okeechobee Utility Authority, June the 17th, 2025. Would you please stand and join me with the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'm going to call the termination of voting members. Ms. Anderson, Mr. Gamatillo, Mr. Gilliland, Mr. Hargraves.
Here.
Mr. Moldenhauer.
Here.
Myself. Mr. Snyder.
Here.
Ms. Trent.
Here.
Okay.
My wife remember
That.
Moving on to item number 2, agenda addition or deletions.
There are none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Moving on to item number 3, consent agenda. Anybody want to pull anything from the consent at this time? If not, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Moldenhauer.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item agenda number 20, meeting minutes from May 20th, 2025. Are there any corrections, deletions at this time? If not, do I have a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting of May 20th?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Trent. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, there is no employee recognition, is that correct, John?
Yes, sir, there's none.
Okay. Moving on to item agenda number 22, comments from the public at this time. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and distinguished board members. My name is Mr. Terry Burrows, and I had a conversation with your second vice chairman, Ms. Trent, the other day about some issues that are coming up on a little meeting that we're going to have tomorrow afternoon. And I encourage you to come to the commission meeting for the commission chambers. The city and the county are going to be discussing 2 issues that are relative to OUA. One is compensation for board members, and the other is the issue about the differentiation between the service area and having an individual in Glades County serve on the board. So I have some conversation about that tomorrow. So I would encourage you to be there to at least listen and participate if you choose to. The second thing is to discuss with you today about the progress on Bass Pro. We have made some pretty significant progress in finalizing what we're doing with Bass Pro. Now it comes the time that was set yesterday, last Thursday, with the Bass Pro attorneys. They want to sit down with us and the OUA in order to discuss the fact that they want to make sure that the water lines and sewer lines are going to be there. Now, John and I are going to meet Wednesday afternoon to discuss the fact of how we're going to proceed with that. Bass Pro has offered the fact they'd like to have an agreement with OUA in order to validate that those lines will be there. There's 2 components to it. One is the lines to be there, that you're going to place them there. But the second component is the fact of what are they going to be able to feed in terms of what's the components that Bass Pro is going to provide to you. So I've made them very well aware that they need to give us a preliminary site plan, by which they've done that many years ago, but it's pretty much the same. And but they understand that they need to bring that site plan together so that John will be able to have some information to make sure what they're doing today is correct. But they want to validate the fact that the lines will be there. As I finally told them the other day on the meeting, is, listen, Bass Pro was a secondary issue. We're having the sewer lines and the water lines down, specifically the sewer lines. We want to eliminate the septic tanks and the package plants off of the rim canal. That was the primary reason for going to Tallahassee and to get into the amount of dollars that we have. So I wanted to set their mind at ease, is that, yes, we are encouraged that they want to continue with the project, but us having the sewer lines down there was not predicated on them having to be in there. It was predicated on us removing the septic tanks off of the rim canal as much as the package plants. So from John's standpoint, tomorrow we'll have a discussion relative to how this is going to have to materialize, what type of agreement they want to do. We've told them that if they want to give us a draft agreement, then we'll bring that back to you folks and let you take a look at it. Or we can develop the agreement of how we want it. It's basically an MOU is saying this is what we're going to do if Bass Pro moves forward with this particular aspect of just to validate that those pipes will be there. Not so much the configuration of what Bass Pro is going to be doing, but the pipes are there in order to manage whatever they are wanting to do down there. So John and I'll get into that tomorrow afternoon, and he can bring that back. So and I'll try to keep you folks abreast of where we're at on this. Amongst some other issues, I think probably the commission should come and visit you every once in a while and listen to what's on your agenda, as much as we would invite you to come and listen to us. And we've got away from some of the antics that we've had to put up with lately, so you're more than welcome to come and listen to us without all the antics. So I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Terry, what is their timeline?
Excuse me?
The timeline for Bass Pro Shop?
The timeline is still, we have one issue, small issue, that we're working with our engineering, and then we'll start putting together the timeline in terms of turning their.
The project is still alive and well.
It's still alive and well, yes. Contrary to a lot of commentary that you hear on Facebook or social media, or whatever, if you don't pay attention to that stuff, you're in good shape. And I don't pay attention to it. We monitor just so that we understand what the public thinks. But to be quite frankly, as I said, there's only like 5 or 6 people that really understood what was happening with Bass Pro. And we've kept it that way because we need to make sure that we're doing the right things to make sure that what we bring into the community is right, and not just keep giving a little information out to the public and having them misconstrue things that it's not totally accurate.
Okay, I got one other question on the interlocal agreement. The third option is to eliminate the city of Okeechobee having a requirement that their representative live within the city limits and get that changed to just being in the OUA service area. Is that still on the table?
I didn't see that. I may have missed it, but I thought there's only 2 action items on the agenda yesterday for tomorrow.
They may have taken it off. I know that's something that they asked about, and that was in the earlier discussions, but I don't know what made the agenda for tomorrow.
The last agenda I saw was only 2 items.
Okay, they may have taken it off then.
2 items of it, I just spoke of
Okay.
it. Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right.
Oh, and certainly on Bass Pro, before this organization ever makes any kind of commitment, we really need to have something from Bass Pro as to what their expected demands are going to be, because for us to say we have the infrastructure to serve, we need to know what their demand is going to be so that we can meet that. And that's something that we'll talk about and try to get from Bass Pro.
I think that was clearly articulated to the attorneys today by myself. And because originally the plan that they gave us, I forwarded that to you a number of 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago when we first started this, is that plan has not changed, right? It's basically the same. They give you some high-level constructs. But as I told Bass Pro, is that, it's interesting, but the concept of getting the sewer line down there was not predicated on you being there.
Right.
It's predicated on feeding and making sure that we take septic tanks and these plants off of the ground now.
Yes, sir.
So, contrary to that is that, yes, you do need to know what your volume's going to be, and I've told them that, and they understand.
Good.
So I think there'll be a good conversation. I think it's the issue is, as I took the conversations that we've been having, and they want to be very specific, making sure that you're there with them, with the pipe, right? And you gave a presentation, what, a month ago to the commission?
Probably.
Demonstrating phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And I told them, we have that, and we can certainly articulate the fact that there's 3 phases of getting that going, and the 3rd phase is really going on down into Buckhead Ridge, if my memory serves me correct. But we'll have that discussion tomorrow and figure out exactly what the best path that's going to be mutually agreed upon between those.
I look forward to it.
You always look forward to meeting with me. It's always fun on your day. All right?
So you definitely sidestepped the question of the timeline. What is the timeline?
There is no timeline right now, and so we can, I think it's one little issue. The bigger issue was finished off last week with the governor's cabinet. And so that was the major issue that we had to work with. The governor approved it, and that's off the table. So we had to get rid of that particular issue, which was causing me more heartburn than anything. So we have...
The years? Is it years?
No, I'm not going to talk to the timeline because we haven't developed the timeline as of yet. Because he doesn't have the pipe down there yet. All right? So there's a lot of stuff that goes in conjunction.
It's our fault. It's our fault.
No, that's not your fault. I've learned a long time ago being in this position that you don't point fingers at people. What you do is you work with people in order to get everything done. And that's what we're working with Bass Pro, and that's the reason we're bringing John in this time. Because really, to be quite frankly, it was premature to bring John in any time earlier than this because we had issues that we had to deal with entitlement issues. Just give you a kind of a snapshot, is that we've got a quick deed from South Florida Water Management based on the fact that they own a piece of property. Well, they really didn't own a piece of property, but still the state's property. So we had to negotiate with the state in order to get that settled. So those issues take a long time to get, as well as you well know. Dealing with Tallahassee, sometimes my hair has turned gray. It used to be brown. So it's been a long, arduous trip to get where we are today. But at least I feel more comfortable where we are today than we have in a long time. All right, any other questions?
Thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. This time is closed public comments. Moving on to discussion agenda. Item number 23, presentation of FY24 audited financial statement.
Just before Mr. Terry starts, just to inform the board that the FY24 audit has been completed by Norton, Holt and Minor. And with us is the lead partner who was on the assignment here, by no means a stranger to us. And he will be making a presentation to the board. And following his presentation, if there is any questions to be asked, please ask. And then I ask that a motion be moved, whether to accept the audit as presented. Thank you. Mr. Morton.
Good morning, everyone. As Lawson said, I'm Terry Morton. I'm a partner with Nolan, Holt and Minor. And I think first I'll just basically go over what our responsibility is in the audit report and then hit some of the highlights in it. And mainly what you pay us to do is to give an opinion on your financial statements. And in prior years, I'm happy to tell you, you've got an unqualified, or what's now they call a clean opinion, which means everything was presented fairly in accordance with building acceptance accounting standards. So that's kind of the gold standard of audits, so you should be proud of that. And then professional standards and the state law also requires us to issue additional reports. And the first report is a report on internal control depending on your compliance with laws and regulations. And this is on the entity as a whole. And again, we did not note any non-compliance, and your internal control system is working effectively. And then because you got state and federal funding, we're also required to give an opinion on compliance with that funding, and then also report on your internal control system over that funding. And new this year, last year you only had state grants, whereas this year you still have your one big state grant, but you also have two federal programs that are classified as what they call a major program. So we had to give an opinion on compliance over those three programs, and again, we didn't have any problems in our there was no compliance, and again, you do have a good system of internal control as far as how you manage those programs. And then the fourth letter that we have to do is prescribed by the Florida Auditor General, and he puts all kinds of weird stuff in there. Like, for example, this year we had a comment that there's no PACE programs operating within your jurisdiction, which for some reason he thinks that's important. But again, in the management letter, we didn't have any comments or concerns there. And then the last report we issue is a required report by the state on your adherence to investment policies and procedures. And again, we didn't have any comments there. So I think you should be proud of Lauriston and John's job and the whole staff here as far as they run a pretty tight ship. And we really don't have that many audit adjustments here, so everything goes fairly smoothly. And then Lauriston, in your packet, sent the management discussion analysis letter. That's the reason they started doing that in audits, is it's really a treetop 7 or 8 page letter that covers really the whole organization and what's going on, and it's really written in plain English, where it's like if you read out 30 pages of footnotes, those get kind of hard to read and follow sometimes. So like on page 6 of the MD&A, there's just a very summarized balance sheet schedule there. And really, as you can see, there hasn't been a whole lot of changes. Your current other assets of $13 million, that's mainly made up of cash. And this year, your cash is actually up and your accounts receivable is good. So was down this year. So that's a pretty big improvement in your cash flow. And really, the only big change that we can go towards the bottom of that, you've got restricted pension benefits. And that number is really dependent upon how the pension investments do. Is last year that was a negative $600,000 because it was a bad year in the stock market. And then when the stocks go back up, the assets in the plan are more than what your actuaries estimate your future liability is going to be, and so then it's an asset. And it really doesn't affect your funding or anything like that. That's all smoothed out over time so that as the market goes up and down, you require contributions to the plan over the change. So you've actually got one of the lower contribution methods as far as a lot of the pension plans we do audit, so it's really managed fairly well as far as the investments and how they're categorized. And then on the next page is just kind of a summarized income statement. And again, none of these numbers really changed too much. The big change was the capital contributions went from $9 million last year to $4 million this year. And some of that is you had that USDA interim funding this year, so that what was previously done through grant funding is done through debt financing this year. And really everything is fairly similar to last year. There weren't any new accounting changes. There shouldn't be any new accounting standards next year that will affect comparability either. I'd just like to thank John and Loris and the staff again for making this a smooth process and open it up any questions anyone might have.
I don't have any questions, but I want to say nice job to Lauriston, John, and team.
And team.
Yes.
That's important, yes.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Secretary.
We need a motion now?
I'll make a motion to approve and accept our final audit.
I have a motion by Ms. Trent. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Moving on to item agenda number 25, vacuum pump station number 2, generator replacement.
Mr. Chairman, we have to do 24, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Item number 24, order contractual agreement.
So, do you want to handle this? You want me to take it?
No, but it's.
So we have the audit contract agreement. They had finished their current extension for this fiscal year 24. Looking forward, there are one of two options. If I can rephrase, it's that you can give another extension. Their current contract provides for annual extensions, or we can go out to bid. believe that covers it, doesn't it? Morrison?
Yep.
Whatever the board's pleasure, we can give an extension to Terry for the coming years, or we can go out to bid.
What is staff's recommendation?
I would say that the working relationship has been valid, and certainly the extension's allowed. I would say that we could easily go for an extension.
I'll make a motion to
Extend.
extend.
I agree. I have a motion to extend. I do have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Hold on.
Who was second?
Hold on.
Do that.
Motion second.
Oh. Hold on with the extension.
Oh, well, you tell me, what is it? Is it for annual, or?
The question is this an annual extension or is it, beyond an annual extension?
I thought it was an annual
Annual
extension, is what,
extension. Okay.
So are we clear that it's an annual extension?
yes,
Okay.
1 year.
Item agenda number 25, vacuum pump station number 2, generator replacement.
Mr. Chairman, board members, this is the second evaluation. The first time, if you can remember, the bids came in well above the estimated, so we had to go back through and look at the bid documents, make adjustments, changes as needed. We rebid the contract, put out the new bid documents. The engineer's estimate was around $450,000. The low bid came in at $468,000. This is for a new generator or generator replacement at VAC Station 2. VAC Station 2 was built around 2005 timeframe, and when we built it, we pulled an previously used, well cared for generator out of the old wastewater plant and put it in inside the building. It's over 40 years old, 45 years old. Looking at replacement, we want to put a new generator outside in an all-weather enclosure on a pad and bring it, obviously something that's not 45 years old. So it's going to be a generator, automatic transfer switch, some wiring, and then deletion of the old generator for the $468,000. It is staff's recommendation that we do move forward with this project.
I have a motion to accept.
So moved.
Motion by Harry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Trent. Any further discussion?
What's
Mr.
the
Chairman,
timeline? I'm sorry, what was the timeline on this?
for completion,
Yes.
I do not know what that is. I don't recall off the top of my head, but it's probably, I don't know. It's maybe 6 months. I don't know.
So the generator we have now
Yes, ma'am.
is still functional?
It's functional. Yes, it is. So the request that was being made, this motion is just to approve the recommendation of award to, let me back up. In the manual, Harry, was your motion to accept the bid of $468,000?
The recommendation of the award.
The recommendation of award.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if we go forward with that, then there'll be 2 other steps, but we'll do them in separate this is just to accept the recommendation of award. So that, we'll get that and vote on it, then we'll go to the next motion.
Did we not vote on?
We have not voted on it yet.
Just propose.
The motion is to accept the recommendation of award by the joint.
Motion on the table.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
The next question is, if the board will allow us to issue the tentative award to Egali.
I'll make a motion for Ward Golly, $468,000.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And last, provided that the contractor does submit all the appropriate documents like insurance, signed agreement, whether the board would be receptive to authorizing the board chairman and staff to issue the appropriate notice to proceed and get this project started.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Ms. Trent, second.
Second.
I have a second, Mr. Snyder. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item agenda number 26, SWSA project change order number 5.
Mr. Chairman, board members, you have in your board package, a change order number 5 proposed by the contractor, reviewed by both the engineer of record and USDA. And Mr. Sumner's here for any particular questions you might have on the award, but the change order basically will cover the installation of some culvert piping for the piping entrance into the vacuum pump station number 5, and if you will, putting back in a service connection to a customer's address where we didn't have an easement from them. They eventually signed the easement, approved the installation, and we put in the vacuum line and pit to service their house. The change order amount total is $27,914.60. I'll entertain any questions, comments you might have of staff or Mr. Sumner.
Jeff, you feel that this change order is in line with everything? Okay. Do I have a motion from the board to accept the recommendation, the change order in the amount of $27,914.60?
Make the motion.
I have a motion by Ms. Trent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Snyder. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item agenda number 27, OUA Board Pension Trustee Appointment.
Mr. Chairman, you want to do it?
I'm older, you better do it.
It comes time for the OUA Pension Board where we have to reappoint trustee positions. For the board's background, there are 5 trustee positions. One of them is my position as the board's representative to the pension. There are 2 trustees that are appointed by the board, and then 2 trustees that are elected by OUA employees. So what we have up here this morning for consideration is the reappointment of Mr. Sumner as the person at large and Jamie Mullis as the OUA employee that the board has appointed previously. You can either reappoint those 2 persons, they both have expressed interest in continuing to serve, or we can go out as the option 1, advertise, see if we get others, and then put that up for consideration. We just have to have this in play by the August pension board meeting.
I'd like to make the recommendation, both members have the desire to continue, that we reappoint them for another term as trustees of the pension.
How long's the term?
4 years, sir. We meet quarterly here in this room.
I'll second. Second.
Oh, there's already a motion made?
Steve, make a motion.
No, I just
I'll
recommend
make the
it.
motion.
No.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we appoint Jeff Sumner and Jamie Mullis to OUA Employee Pension Board for another 4-year term.
The salary increase. I have a second. Any further discussion?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Congratulations, gentlemen. Thank you for doing a good job.
So we've conducted the elections, and that ballot box will be taken to the next pension board meeting where the pension will count the votes and see who is going to serve for the employee 2 positions.
Moving on to item agenda number 28, SR 78 West Phase 2, Water Management Improvement Project.
So this is the second phase of the water main improvement project along State Road 78. The picture on your screen is the blue piping. For reference, the red is phase 1 that has already been installed, where we have installed a 16-inch water main along 78. Originally, this was done because of a DOT project that is getting ready to start up, where they were going to be installing a guardrail on top of our 8-inch water main that we were supposed to move. They have since changed that DOT project. The guardrail is no longer an issue, but we have started with the putting in of the 16-inch pipe, and we will take out of service the much older 6-inch cast iron and the 8-inch ductile iron main that are running along 78. This water main improvement will be to serve OUA existing and new development, and will assist the development going in Buckhead, in Glades County, the Lakefront Estates project. So we have bid the second phase. It's about 3,000 feet of piping. We received bids, sealed bids on this project. You can see a bid tabulation that brought in the 8 bids, ranging from the low of $419,358.50 up to $1.379,963.97. A very, very wide spread. So certainly from an engineering perspective, the question that needs to be asked is, what did the apparent low bidders possibly miss that would have raised their pricing, or what did the high bidders see that really wasn't in existence to raise their prices? To that end, the engineer of record, Holtz Consulting Engineers, evaluated the bids and identified a couple areas in the low bidders bid that raised questions as to the validity of their bid and what they may or may not have been contemplating when they put in the bid. One of the items was the directional drill under Limpkin Creek. I'll let the engineers speak at length about that, but their bid item was much lower than everybody else. It was like 10%, 9% of the average low bid. The other area that was in question was record drawings, where the low bidder's bid was a tenth, or very small amount of everybody else's average bid for record drawings. So to that end, there is some identified problems. Both the engineer of record is here to add anything to the discussion or questions, and Mr. Bowman is present representing B&B. He may or may not want to make a statement or have questions for the board's consideration. But what is up for consideration is a rejection of the low bid, and if that were to happen, making the award to the next low bidder. So that's what's up for discussion and consideration today. So if there's any questions, or again, the engineer of record is here to make a statement, or the low bidder is here also.
I'd like to hear a statement from the engineer.
Christine? That would be Christine Miranda with Holtz Consulting Engineers.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning to all of you. Yes, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
So what was the concern with What was the concern with the difference in the bid?
So they're, in evaluating the bid, looking at the differential in the amount price, it was concerning. Like John said, both on the low end and the high end. I'll talk about the high end first. The high bidder, it looked like there probably were mathematical errors. For example, their maintenance of traffic item, they had over $300,000, which for that stretch of roadway, it should have probably been in the maximum, $30,000 range. I think it was a mathematical error. On the low end with B&B's bid, like John had mentioned, I looked at what was being provided for this contract. OUA is supplying the materials. So the vast majority of the line items are for labor from the contractor's own forces. The two items in question for survey and for the directional drill are items that are subcontracted out. So for survey, looking at the number that they had, it was $2,000. Our estimate and what we provided to OUA was $20,000. And I think the average, I think I had it in my letter, was in the $18,000 range for the other contractor bids. So for that line item, I don't know if it was a mathematical error, but it was just alarming. And knowing that that is an item that needs to be paid to a subcontractor, it could potentially cause issues when the contract's awarded, knowing that that's happening.
Do we know if there was a prior survey that perhaps the subcontractor was being provided?
Well, this line item is specifically for the record drawings, for the as-built information. So after the line is constructed, well, a surveyor needs to go in and collect all that information.
Just for reference, the record drawings would be at the end of the project. We know exactly where the new piping was installed, not designed, but installed, or it could have been, we had to supply a cross-section view of the drill under Lemkin Creek, so we need to know where that piping is. So that's what the record drawing would be able to do at the end. It gives us a fairly exact location of where the piping is within the right-of-way.
So, and then with respect to the directional drill, the low bidder's number was $60,000. Everybody else's was in the $150,000 range. Our estimate that we provided to OUA that had the materials included as well was around $200,000. So knowing that there are these, we'll call it underbids for these items, it's going into a contract with having that, knowledge. It's just in the best interest for the OUA. In my professional judgment, I could not make a recommendation with that information.
Any other questions from the board?
May I just ask a question? So based upon what you have highlighted, was clarification sought from the low bidder as to those two issues, or was it just your professional determination not to accept that?
I did speak with Phil, and he was aware of my review and my recommendation, and I'll let him speak, but there was admission to, omitting some items on his bid. But the problem is that you can't go into this award and then negotiate a change order afterwards.
No, understand.
So, but yes, I did, speak with Phil regarding, what the issues were and what my recommendation would be.
Okay.
So the items that were omitted, can we speak to that? The items that were omitted, you just said?
Well, not omitted, but say underbid.
Underbid.
So,
I want to make sure I was clear.
For example, so the directional drill under Lemkin Creek, that directional drill is under, it's a waterway of the state, so it required us to get permitting through both the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. It's a very lengthy process. They, in their issued permit, they had very specific requirements regarding that drill, and the tolerances and the specific requirements, which can play into, what the cost is to do that work. So.
Okay.
Again.
All right, thank you so much.
Mr. Bowman, would you like to comment or?
Good morning, Board.
Good morning,
John.
Morning, Phil.
So, yeah, I was obviously a little bitter. I was not expecting to be a little bitter. I was really surprised, and so most of us were, of the differences. So the disadvantage for me is the fact that I'm doing this exact work right now. So we know exactly what our costs are. We've done jobs in the past where you supply the material, we understand what those costs are. So I still like my bid pretty good. Now, I will admit, I told Christine that my directional drill man, which is Sylvester, does a lot of work for you guys as well as me, did not pick up the cost to do the requirements from Army Corps that goes underneath Milton Creek, which is a $25,000 error missed on his part. But it doesn't matter. His bid's not what we're talking about today, it's my bid. We turned in a bid knowing what we were getting into. We haven't changed our statement. If you don't feel comfortable with me doing it, that's obviously your prerogative. But 40 years, I've never, when I commit to bidding a job, I've not done it and finished it. Now, how much profit do we plan to make? Well, it's not going to be that 34% that we like to see. It's going to be 19 to 20. There's still profit to be made even for us. I totally am amazed at how the bids went so high. I told John, I can't see it. The project we're doing in Buckhead right now for my client is 3.4. That's 10,000 feet through the hardest area you can deal with conflicts, changes, road closings. We're doing fine down there. And this is an extension of this line. This line that we're putting in Buckhead is going to be serviced off this line. Your project here is on the shoulder of a road. There's no driveways. There's no 10,000 cables. It's as far as we're concerned, a sweet little job. I will tell you that if it was a lump sum job, it'd be real hard for Christine to tell you the items that she feels uncomfortable with. You wouldn't know what to say. All she could say is, he's really low and everybody else is really high. We're scared. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious. But we have payment bonds that are required to be given to you. We put in the bid bond. I'm scared it looks so low for you, Mika, but I'm not scared. Brett's not scared. Our guys aren't scared. But my clients that this water is going to serve looks at everything I do. And yesterday, you said, are you going to do the job? I said, I don't know yet. He says, you know we foot half that bill every time you work out there. I said, didn't know that. He said, you better get that job. You're going to save us money. So there's an additional push with my clients at Lakefront for me to do it. I don't know what I just said is true or false. I'm just knowing what Yittle made the statement. He's the manager for Lakefront. But that being said, it doesn't matter if you want to use this or not. The point is, I'm here, I'm letting you know I will follow through with my commitments. I don't want you to have to look at a future bid down the road and go, well, Phil failed on that one, so we're not going to entertain you in the future. That's my goal up here today. Not to convince you to give it to me, but to let you know we're here to follow through with our commitments. And with that, we appreciate whatever you do.
I have a question, because you are making comments about commitment. So are you able to commit to us that there will be no change orders as a part of this?
Unless you change some of the plans, there's no right for a change order. Unforeseen conditions, the things that we can't see on the plan would be something for discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's on the plan, no ma'am, there's no change orders coming. I mean, we're having an issue with getting enough material. I assume John's group's been a lot more diligent early on to get everything acquired that's necessary to do the work. But we are still waiting for our HDP directional drill that we have to do down there, Shelby West. Shelby Loop. We have to do a directional drill there, and we're still waiting for that material. So the only thing I can say is when you get us started, if you choose to, make sure we have all the material, because that can be a hindrance if we can't afford it, if we're missing something. But I just want you to know, I'm sorry, Christine did her job.
Yes.
She did it well. I have no problem with that. I'm here to let you know, we do what we gotta do and go from there.
Thank you, sir.
Any discussion?
So what's the downside of accepting a low bid?
There's no, I mean, Bravo, Mr. Bowman said to us that question that you brought up about the change orders, that doesn't foresee any change order whatsoever. I mean, low bid is low bid as long as everything is relevant, apples to apples. And that there's no difference between the others as compared. I mean,
Sounds to me like it's just lowering their profit margin.
So there's no real downside. There's no real downside. The only exception I will take is the plans are not always showing everything that's out there. You know, there may be, let's say, a water issue or something. So there's always the potential for a condition that could be challenged.
But that would be with any contractor,
That is
correct?
any set of plans. There is no set of plans out there building a house or a building that is always going to be 100%. There's always going to be that issue. But the problem going in is if the project was bid and there was the 34% profit margin or whatever that he mentioned, it's going to take one aspect of that change versus if you go in knowing you're only at, I think, 19% or whatever he said, there's going to be a difference there and a pressure to produce. That's the only downside. Other than that, the contractors are both qualified. They have building, they have their licensing, they're going to have insurance, they're going to have bonds. They're all going to be equal on that aspect.
And as far as past work experience with B&B?
Isn't it an advantage that he's already working out there and already knows the lay of the land, so to speak?
There is an advantage. PRP did phase 1, so they've worked out there. They know the conditions. They've worked on State Road 78. They did phase 1.
But this will go hand in hand with the project they're already doing, is that correct?
Which either contractor is going to be well versed. PRP from the standpoint that they already did phase 1 at State Road 78. B&B would be the aspect of that they're doing work in Glades County. If I was going to ask Mr. Bowman a question, I would say my question would be, okay, you're doing all this work for the contractor. You're doing all this work on site, I don't know, 10,000 feet of pipe, whatever he said. He's doing the pipeline from the development site up to the tower. He's obviously doing work around town. And he can answer this question, but does he have the people, the equipment to do another project? So, to me, that would be, and I would, if PRP was here, I would ask them the same question. What is your availability? Do you have 2 or 3 projects somewhere else? When can you start? Are you going to be able to do the work? That's the kind of questions I would be asking.
Well, it's only fair that you're asking the question that we have Mr. Bowman reply.
Bill?
Mr. Bowman, the question will be for you, you can step up to the microphone, is the availability of equipment and personnel to do the job.
Could you tell me when you want to start?
It's Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, we can get all the paperwork done that.
So the starting time would probably be no sooner than a month, because you're going to have to need time to get insurance and sign agreements and do the paperwork. And then, of course, the OUA will have to have time to order the material and making sure that that material's coming in. So, which you would have to do if you were supplying the material.
So
If you were
don't have
doing,
the material yet, is that what you're saying?
no, that's, they're gonna be a consideration here. You know, if we know we have a contractor, then we order the material. But if you were getting this job, you would be in that same position, having to wait on material, your material, to come in and do the job. So the actual boots on the ground, at least a month.
Yeah, that's not a problem. We have to be out of the high school before it starts on August the 11th. And there's three crews up there now. They're gonna need somewhere to go. Of course, we have a lot of work going on lakefront, no question about it. We got a very lengthy meeting yesterday in the way that they have their phasing, what they have to get done. They've added more work to us, which is fine. That's gonna be my life for a while, with helping them build and move forward. But right now, that will be not a problem to take care of. And plus, my son is taking this very personal. He wants to be the one doing this project. And I said, well, we'll decide at that point, because you're responsible for the three insides. But yes, we can definitely take it on, no problem.
What were the items that Sylvester missed? I mean, that's a little concerning.
I don't understand it well. Like, you might want to let Ms. Christine
I
explain that
can't
one.
speak to the specifics, but I will tell you this, the next three low bidders, which were PRP, Felix, and Johnson Davis, which are all very well-versed underground utility contractors in this area, they are all utilizing the same subcontractor for the directional drill, which is All Florida HDD, it's previously known as K3 directional drills. I personally have had a lot of experience with them. So I saw what their numbers were, and it was in the $147,000 range. So I trust that number from a drilling contractor, knowing them. I have not personally done work with Sylvester, but just that main disparity, it was, I'm not sure exactly what they missed in terms of the equipment they need, the rigs that they needed, the personnel, the monitoring during construction, that's something else, to make sure that, we're adjacent to the bridge, that there's no environmental impacts with having a frack out, in the waterway. So it's elements like that. I can't speak to what the specifics are.
I can't see these numbers that well.
I'm gonna blow it up some just for reference. It's in your board package, but the bid in question is this line right here, 865 feet. The low bid was 60,550. This bid was 147,050, 153, 105, 147.
But it's the same amount of work.
Same amount of work. These are the way the bids
So
are
we've
done.
got three contractors that you just referenced are very well versed using the same sub, and there's such a huge difference.
It's about $100,000.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's a difference between all of them, not just Phil.
Well, these three are right in the same.
I can't see the numbers.
You're seeing three guys that use the same subcontractor.
Yes.
The numbers are going to be relative.
Well, they have different markups, so you can see those two are 147. I don't know, they may have not marked it up. That one may have done a small markup. This contractor, I think that's all directional drilling, the 133.
The 133, 216, and 160. So they're all over, but nobody is at 60. Everybody's at 130 and above.
So what's your concern?
What my concern is, if anything arises, they get on site and they're like, oh, we need a change order, because this is an unforeseen circumstance. We're now in the process of having to negotiate with the contractor, whereas this is a competitive bidding environment. When you're having to negotiate a change order, then, it can add both time to the contract of having to go back and forth if we can't agree upon the numbers. And then also, there is the potential that, knowing that there's an underbid, that there's a concern for the quality of work, potentially, knowing that, somebody left money on the table and that they're trying to recoup. There is the potential that the quality of the work could be at play, so.
But I go back to what you keep saying about the unforeseen. That could be unforeseen with any of them. So I'm really.
That is correct, but what those numbers are showing is that there was something missed that should have been accommodated for that. So the additional cost to do that work, where is that going to come from? Yes, it could come from the reducing the profit, but if it's going to a subcontractor, it's, like I said, it's the potential for the change orders and all that, so.
And you talked to Sylvester about
LJ's
this?
actually on
Right.
site right now down at Buckhead. We're analyzing another drill. I met Sylvester through the OUA.
Right.
Years ago. Fine gentleman, of course, his daddy died late last year, so LJ's handling it all now, but, I have a lot of confidence in LJ and his group.
Yeah, they do very good work.
Yeah, and what was missed was the $25,000 to do the special that I don't understand that was in the permit from the Army Corps.
Which was,
It's probably more along the idea that they have specific requirements of where this drill has to be in the state right away under Lincoln Creek. So there's probably an idea that there's gonna have to be some kind of aquatic hydrographic survey done to show exactly where the piping is. It's a little more exact. They wanna know exactly where the pipe is and how deep it is underneath the channel. So it's just a requirement through DEP, the Army Corps, that may have been what he missed in the bid. Whether it's 25,000 or whatever, don't know the difference. What we can say is he's at 60, the lowest other bid was around 133. So we know it's a $70,000 swing in that line item.
But I also know that looking at the other three, taking B and B out of the picture, there's a swing between those.
There's a swing between all of them.
Yes,
But,
yes.
I mean, again,
Right.
Yes.
you keep in mind this line, it goes from 60,000 to 147 right here, 153, 147 again, 133, 216, 161, and 189.
John, can I speak to that? So the swing in the other bids, like I said, the vast majority of the line items are where the contractor is provided the materials. So for example, one contractor may say, okay, it's going to cost me $250 to put this fitting in. The other one may have $2,000, but that's based off of their own labor forces. So that's where I believe a lot of, for the 3-4, the 4 low bidders, where the,
So you're saying it's more the difference in the labor force than it is the actual item itself?
Well, for those, for the remaining low bidders, where their differential of where their cost differential
So
came from.
their cost could be higher due to labor, and we're trying to make a comparison here of the same,
I think it's a little different here.
Okay.
That line item is not done by the contractor.
Right.
It's done by a sub. So the contractor really doesn't have a whole lot of control over cost. It's whatever the sub says, my cost is $100,000. It is what it is.
So Phil, who's paying the difference? You're paying the difference? At
Right.
the end of the day, you're paying the difference.
Right.
I mean, everything that
So-
Christine says is absolutely correct, but
Yes.
I have no right.
Correct.
Me and John's been doing this a long time, but I don't have a right.
Well-
I don't have a right, and he lets me know quick, we walk away.
Well, at the bottom line is there's a huge
Phil has a
difference.
reputation.
Yes, and
If he doesn't,
I will make a
Phil.
motion to go with.
what you are telling us, the future will unfortunately be whatever it is. I mean,
Well,
I agree with what you're saying, okay?
I appreciate what you're bringing to us and
Your
pointing out
honesty.
these, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but I would like to make a motion to, select the low bid. That's
second.
B and B.
I'll second.
So you have
Okay.
a motion and a
We have a motion
second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You do right by us, Phil.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
I appreciate it. You always
Okay,
do well
so,
by us.
so some of these motion items down here can drop off because we're not rejecting and whatever. The next one would be the same one we did before. Will the board authorize the chairman and the staff to be able to execute a notice of award rather than the PRP would be to B&B?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
The last item then would be for the board to authorize the chairman and staff, if the low bidder who gets the award presents the agreement and the insurance and all the necessary paperwork, whether we could go ahead and execute those documents and issue the notice to proceed.
I'll make a
Have a
motion.
motion?
Second.
Have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Anything else?
Moving on to item number 29.
29 is going to be fairly straightforward. We have a contractor identified, the project's been authorized, we now have to get the material. There were 4 bids requested, we received 3. The range was tremendous, it was between 254, and 260. It was very close. So all things being considered equal, it's staff recommendation that the board authorize an award to Empire in the amount of $254,695.59.
Do I have a motion? Seth?
So moved.
Motion by Harry, do I have a second? Second by Ms. Trent. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Item agenda number 30, Northwest 15th Pump Station Rehabilitation Engineering Service Agreement.
So Northwest 15 is in the picture. It is this little pump station right here near the soccer fields, near the airport. 99% of the flow generated in Okeechobee goes through that pump station. It's the last big pump station before the treatment plant on Cemetery Road. We are now in that plant. That station was constructed in early 2000 when 441 North was 4-lane, from 2-lane to 4-lane. In early 2000 is when we built that station. We're getting ready to add all the flow for 500 homes in the Southwest service area. The discussion earlier this morning about the State Road 78 corridor, RV parks and mom and pop RVs, Big O and Bass Pro is also going to go through this station. It's time for us to upgrade those pumps to a higher flow, a new generator, new electrical. It's time to refurbish that pump station, give it another 25 years of life. So to that end, the OUA applied for a energy efficiency grant to go with soft starts, better, more efficient motors and pumps and control panel. FDAC's approved and awarded the OUA some money for that energy efficiency. What this question is about the engineering services agreement with Sumner Engineering, who is tasked with doing all of the Southwest service area work, both Project 2, Project 1, and Project 3. You have a engineering services agreement to the tune of $189,600 for Sumner Engineering and their subconsultant to put together the bid documents for the upgrades to NW15. There will be a second agenda item after this dealing specifically with that work associated with the FDAC's grant. Those will be 2 separate engineering agreements to move forward with this project. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have or comments, but this motion specifically is for the engineering services work associated with the new generator and controls and odor control and basically all the upgrades that are needed to NW15 that we will put out to bid sometime later this month, summer.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Trent. Do I have a second?
And that is for the $189,600 engineering services agreement.
Sumner Engineering and Consulting.
I'll second.
Second.
I've got a question. Has the concrete infrastructure all been evaluated? I'm sure that there's no spalling or anything. It's not gonna fall apart here after we put all these new pumps in.
Certainly the aspect this particularly does not address if there's a failing station. We don't see anything, but certainly during that evaluation, we'll look at the concrete. But we've been in that station, looked at it. There's none evident anywhere on the site.
I was going to say the same thing. We actually did prepare a assessment report of that station that we presented to y'all back in April, I believe, John. And we spent quite a bit of time on site, and I don't think we're anticipating any structural issues at all.
Okay.
Recoding the what well?
What's that?
Or are we gonna recode the what well?
We'll look at that and see if I think it was ResClad that we used previously, where that is, and we'll address that. If need be, we'll do the pressure washing, clean it up, and then recoat it.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 31.
Item 31 is just a follow-up. Again, it is, we are still dealing with the same pump station, NW15, but we broke it out separately because it'll be easier to track with the FDAX agreement, where they were only looking at the purchase of the electronic equipment, control panels, pumps, guide rails, and the piping for the system. So what Sumner Engineering and their sub needs to do will be to determine the specifics for those pumps and bid documents for those items and inspect them once they come in. The engineering services agreement is for $60,000.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion by Ms. Trent. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
The second part of that agreement is there will be paperwork, as usual, that we may have to authorize through the FDAX agreement, and that's also included here. And we'd like authorization that the chairman and staff can authorize that work once that agreement has been finalized. And this is specifically for the FDAX paperwork.
Yes. I have a motion by Ms. Trent. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Harry. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to staff reports. Item number 32, Operations Director. Good morning, sir.
Our report's attached there. Entertain any questions if you have any. I'm here for each item of business.
Questions, the board? Everything going nice and smooth? Maintenance doing well?
Yep, maintenance is good.
Certainly, it's all addressed there at the surface water treatment plant. We're continuing to look at the ozone equipment and come up with some upgrades on the ozone equipment. Certainly at the maintenance department, again, still advertising for positions. And at the wastewater plant, the clarifier rehabilitation on one has happened. We're still looking through staffing arrangements, personnel at the treatment plant. And looking forward, there are still going to be some improvements necessary for the other clarifier and an aeration basin and headworks. But that would be, as we work through those processes, we'll bring those back to the board for consideration.
I have a question regarding the staffing. I understand that we had someone move out of state. Is that correct?
That's at maintenance, yes.
Okay. So what seems to be the issue with other staff members leaving? Are we doing an exit interview to get an idea of what's going on and why we continue to have the turnover?
There are different people that are leaving for different reasons, and exit interviews are being done. And in the case of that person, they were expecting some family members to move down. They didn't like it, so they had to go back to take care of family members. And of course, the person was well qualified, so they could easily get another job back in, I think, Kentucky, where they were moving back. So that's the issue with that particular one.
And then the others that have left?
The other ones are exit interviews. One of them was the one is a wastewater treatment plant supervisor. Was through a probationary period, and it was, without getting into too much detail, it was not a good fit. And so we elected not to extend the probation or full-time employment. Others, I'm just not recalling what the others might have been. I know we had one person that we had let go because their job was doing a lot of driving, and during their probationary period, they'd already had 3 accidents. So it just was not improving. So there's always going to be issues. I think there was a 4th person, again on probation, late to work.
So these are newer employees?
Well, the electrical was not.
Oh.
She'd been around for a little bit, but most of the others were relatively new.
And who's conducting those exit interviews?
That would have been HR.
Oh, okay.
The 4th person was late to work on a number of occasions, coming back from lunch, showing up in the morning. It's just something that we...
3 and 4 open positions were on probation.
Oh, that's why I'm asking.
And one had probably a year and a half on the job.
So it's one of those type of deals. My deal is on the probation, if there are significant, you counsel them, tell them, hey, this is what's going on, try to do this. Vehicle accidents, I can understand 1. 3? No.
It's in an OUA vehicle accident?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Hit a road sign, drove off over a wood pile and damaged his vehicle, and then turned a corner tight and struck some concrete barriers.
So no other...
Well, what we didn't want is to involve other vehicles or health issues.
Oh, that's okay.
And any of that could happen. It's one of those deals that it's just not getting better. So you make a business decision, and you wish them well, and it just didn't work out for that instance, and maybe they can find something good down the road.
Okay.
So it's what we do. It's what we're forced with today.
Good.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 33, Finance Director.
Page 2.
Okay, let me try to get there.
Board members, Mr. Chairman and the board members, there's nothing that stands out at this month's presentation that I will say that generate any alarm at this time. So it is really just the normal going of the presentations where the figures are concerned. They're all trending in the right direction. We have completed what May, that's about 8 months of the year. And after 8 months, I can say that in terms of revenue, we are slightly ahead of where we are wanting to be in terms of the budget, which is a good sign in terms of both on the water and the wastewater revenue, and along with the other revenues. On the expense side, we're still behind, but we know that there are a number of repairs projects that we are now undertaking, and those repair expenses will come through month by month, and as such, even though we are 900,000 below the budget at this stage, it's an ongoing process that will narrow those gaps as we move towards the end of the fiscal year. On the restricted revenue, again, we have shown a huge difference between the actual versus the budget, and of course there we know that has to do with the discount that expired on April 30th. A number of potential users within our service area came in to take advantage of those sign-up benefits, whether they paid the full amount or they entered into a contractual payment agreement with the OUA. We had a number of persons coming in. On that line, we would see that, for example, wastewater connection fee, we have received about 1.2 million versus a conservative budget at that time when we didn't know of such a decision. We had a conservative 144,000. So together, we are much ahead. On the interest side, under the restricted, we are 292 versus 232, so we are in line with the interest, not too adverse, but not too way off. And then finally, on the non-operating, we are slightly ahead, and that's because we had to account for some interest on the interim finance as we close the agreement with USD. So overall, as we look at the financial health of the OUA for this financial year, we are in good stead in terms of actual versus the budget, and we're tracking where we want it to be, and we don't foresee any material change in terms of an adverse variance moving to the end of the financial year. So I think we are in good stead, and we continue to keep a close eye on our expenses to make sure we don't have any surprises as we move forward. Any question that the board may have at this time? After the question, we ask that the finance report be accepted.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I have a motion to accept. Second. And a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries.
Mr. Chairman, may I just add, since we have accepted the finance report, may I just add that late yesterday evening, a PDF copy of the FY26 budget was circulated to all members. I know you might not have had time to look at it as yet, and it wasn't intended for you to be fully informed for this meeting. It is just giving information. Normally the board will take about a month to review, asking a question of myself or Mr. Hayford as it relates to the budget, but we have circulated the budget. We do have 6 copies, 6 hard copies. So if any board members require a physical paper copy, we can circulate that. But emails were sent out yesterday with those information. Now the board will then, after review, will then come back to say how would the board like us to share, to evaluate it. Like last year, we were asked to make presentations at each board meetings, or if the board do like, we could have a workshop. So that's really up to the board's decision. So during this time, we ask you to review the budget, and if there's any questions that you have for us, we would gladly entertain those questions.
So keep in mind, just to reiterate, this is a preliminary budget. And you can start in the section A where we make our assumptions as far as any kind of cost of living raises or rate increases. Those are all going to be suggested in the front section of A. But look through it. It is a preliminary document. It's a living document. Over the summer, we will be able to make adjustments and changes. And clearly, if we intend to bring back different sections at some of the July and August board meeting, so that we can further expand upon it as far as areas that we may want to change. So like it's project work. For early in the discussion before the meeting, there is we still have an outstanding appropriation request at the Tallahassee level. We won't know if that's approved until it gets all the way through the governor's desk and it gets signed. But if that appropriation works, it's going to have a positive impact on this budget that we would have to recognize. So I'm just saying this is a living document. It will change over the summer. What we're striving to get to is hopefully by August, no later than September, we can adopt the final budget and be ready 1 October. So,
do we have any idea whether any of our requests made it into the preliminary budget that they released yesterday?
It got as far as out of conference, where the Senate and the House get together and create one budget. I believe the time period is tonight sometime where they can vote, both the House and the Senate, on this combined budget. If we make it through that vote, it goes to the governor's office. Hopefully we can avoid the veto pin. And if the governor signs it, then we're in.
Sorry.
And I'm talking out of turn, I apologize. Terry actually told me that vote occurred around midnight last night.
It may have. I just know it's.
I think now we're just waiting on the governor.
There's a cooling off period. I think it's 72
Right,
hours.
yeah.
So whenever they sign the conference bill, they can't vote before that time period. So if it got voted, then it's off to the governor's office, and now we still sit down and wait to see if the bill stays intact and makes it across the governor's desk. But I'm just saying, however it transpires, if that happens, which we are hoping that it does, it's going to be an impact to the budget, a change. And there'll be others. So, like I say, just, it's a living document. We will change it as the summer goes through.
Job well done. Moving on to item from our attorney, Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board. So, the evening of the last meeting, I sent out a final title opinion on the USDA grant closing. Never heard anything back. No news is good news. Earlier in the month, I sent Mr. Hamilton a legal letter associated with this independent audit. Didn't even make it in there. My only thing was about, we have this one little litigation matter in the court. So again, no news is good news. Today we had a discussion about the vacuum pump station generator inflation. Mr. Hayford had asked an opinion on that. I gave it. I gave an opinion about this thing with the SR 78 about rejecting the lowest bid. You would have been fine, in particular with an engineering opinion. It would have been legally defensible if you'd wanted to do that. I think it worked out fine anyway. And as to there's this workshop tomorrow. There's only one, the published agenda for that workshop still only has one item. There's nothing in there about Bass Pro Shop unless they're going to do a quick switcheroo. The single item on tomorrow's workshop agenda is about the interlocal. So, it's right.
But the workshop tomorrow is for the interlocal, but I believe there used to be, I saw circulating, an agenda for that meeting. And the first one I saw the draft, there were 3 items up for discussion at the interlocal. Mr. Burrows represented today that only 2 of them are really up for discussion. One is whether or not this board receives compensation for attending the regular monthly meetings. And the second part was one of the commissioners did not want specific board position assigned just to Glades County.
I saw that. Okay. Well, you know, it'd be interesting. I mean, I feel like we drafted the thing, so whether I'm agnostic about having to be there, you don't want to pay for me to schlep it back up here, right? I mean, I can take proactive steps if you tell me what they wanted to do, but
they have been very clear. It's going to be, they would take comments from OUA,
yeah,
but it's really going to be a BOCC and the City of Okeechobee decision. So at the workshop, they don't even make a decision per se. They do develop a framework for what they agreed. It still has to go back to the BOCC for approval, to the City of Okeechobee for approval before it gets...
Right on. All right, so it sounds very preliminary, but...
So you can be there, but it just really isn't...
Yeah, pass. So, all right, well, let me know what happens and what I need to do, but I'm sure we'll be fine. I mean, I changed 3 words in the interlocal. You know, they'll probably, I think the county's going to do the same thing. It sounds like they want to do the identical thing and, you know, change for the Glades County, right? It's just going to say service area. Sounds brilliant. Sounds very helpful if they do that. But that's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Executive Director.
Clearly, there's really, you know, not a whole lot going on. I will tell you that Pine Ridge Park is officially behind us. They're done. They paid. We are now trying, as staff, we're trying to close out the DEP grant authorization for that project. That's underway. Project 2 is way past their contract time. We have a projection now that they're going to be done August, I think, somewhere thereabouts. Late July, August, we'll see. Once that happens, and only when that happens, can we consider starting the connection process. And as staff, we're starting to move in that direction as to how that's going to happen. Otherwise, Southwest 5th Avenue, Treasure Island, it's all slowly inching forward. Treasure Island, we're looking at properties for some of the vacuum pump stations, trying to still get a couple easements done, and certainly what's going on with the general information. Again, workshop tomorrow, 1:30, the interlocal agreement. It's going to be kind of important to hear what folks say and where they want to head with that. So other than that, that's essentially it.
Any items from the board at this time? If not, meeting adjourned.
Chris, did you have anything you wanted to go over, or just everything good? All right. Well, I didn't know if you had something that you wanted to go over, or.
Not yet.
Fair enough. All right. Well, if you do, you got my number. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You are, for sure. All righty. Tabitha, thank you. See you at 1:30 tomorrow.
See you later. Bye.
You know, that was. I was waiting.
I thought you wanted to speak in the public hearing.
I thought that's what he came by to do.